So let's talk about one of the risks when dieting for a prolonged period of time, when you're trying to prep down to be at extreme levels of body fat for a bikini competition. One of those risks that is something that a few girls, not everyone, but a few girls will experience is a loss of their menstrual cycle, of their periods. It's called amenorrhea, and it's something that is pretty common, and it is something that a few girls will experience during their prep, but it's not something that is often spoken about, or something that is known for majority of ladies when starting a prep journey. We've got to first and foremost, always have the conversation and have the understanding that prep for stage, to put yourself, it's an extreme sport, and you have to go to extreme measures in order to achieve what 1% of the population realistically are able to achieve. Okay. It's not healthy, it's not sustainable, but you can do it in the healthiest way possible, in the most sustainable way possible, and you can do it while trying to avoid the risks. But there are obviously risks involved, with dieting down, and one of those is obviously this hormonal, situation that happens, called amenorrhea, that is obviously the loss of period. And just think about it logically. It doesn't just happen with bodybuilders or athletes prepping for stage. It happens with gymnasts, with obviously dancers, with anyone that is a high stressful journey that has to really be mindful and restrict their calories. And essentially is two main parts to it. It is eating less, obviously, and performing at a very high activity level, and it is stress related. Okay, and it is something that might happen, and it is something that will correct itself once you obviously follow certain protocols afterwards. It's not necessarily something to stress about or worry about, but it is something to be aware of and be mindful of, and to monitor throughout your journey. We've had girls that have prepped and never lost their period, and has had a healthy, obviously, menstrual cycle throughout all of it. Some obviously are on contraceptives and pills, and obviously means of hormonal contraceptive, or whatever the case may be, and that might affect them differently. But if you are someone that had a regular, obviously period, and you've had it in, let's say for example, the beginning phases of your prep, and the longer you are on a deficit, the lower your calories become, the higher your activity level goes, the deeper you get into that deficit, obviously your body is just consuming foods to fuel, your goal. It's not optimal health. It's not the optimal amount of calories. Carbs and fats obviously is the main macronutrients that affect your loss of period, and the lower the calories, the longer the prep, the bigger the chances of you losing your period for a few months. It might happen and then stay away for a few months during those extreme prep phases, and even when you stop your prep. And some girls, can get it back within, let's say 4 or 6 weeks. Some it might take a few months. Some, it takes, a little bit longer than that. But it all depends on your approach afterwards. Essentially, once you de-stress, your training regime, and you're sleeping better, and you're eating more calories, particularly coming from carbs and essential fats, and you do that for a prolonged period of time, and you're not rigorously training, to extreme levels on a daily basis, and your body starts, kind of like regulating, your hormones start regulating, your body is under less stress, that, generally, obviously, most cases, unless there's some, extreme exception, your period will return. When that happens, no one really knows. It depends on your adherence and your game plan afterwards. But that is something to obviously be aware of. There's something to talk about. It's something, like I said, to be mindful of. It's something to most certainly communicate with me as your coach, so we can discuss it, so I can send you information on it. And it's something for you to obviously know that is something that happens, quite regularly with, a few girls. I wouldn't say it's something to stress and worry about. Obviously, if you have, goals to be falling pregnant, within a prep, you shouldn't be prepping or anything like that. You should understand that, obviously you are doing something that is going to be extreme on your physique. Hormonally, you will be affected for a period of time temporarily. You need to align your life and your goals and understand the risks involved. But I'm saying, I've personally not known anyone throughout our entire span of prepping that has lost a period, not gotten it back, obviously a few weeks or a few months after prep has ended, and they have reverse dieted properly again. So I wouldn't say it's something to be too alarmed about, but it is something to be aware of and be mindful of. And that's pretty much obviously what happens. Comes from obviously high stress, comes from low calories and not eating enough for the energy output and exercise activity that you do for a prolonged period of time, and your hormones essentially get affected, and you lose your period. All right, if you have any questions, please feel free to obviously reach out. But yeah, this answers your questions as to is it normal, should you talk to me about it when it happens, and is it something that obviously comes right or regulates obviously after the extreme dieting has ended. All right, hope that helped. Let me know. God bless.